to a new video. Today I'm gonna bring you guys along with me on my day. I'm actually about to run to Lowe's. I have to return some wood for a project that I hopefully will be starting today. So just a quick little backstory on it. I have a carport and our carport backs up to our neighbor's backyard. And I do a lot of projects out there. I have a lot of like stuff that I store in the carport, obviously, as far as like projects and like furniture and stuff. So I want to give some privacy to the space, but I don't want to like close in the carport completely because it's just so expensive to close in the carport. We wanted to eventually make it into like a garage or maybe even like a family room, but after looking into pricing on that, it's too much. I looked into closing it in. It's like $25,000 by the time I added up like everything from start to finish, like finishing it with paint, trim, carpet, or wood floor, whatever we put in there. You're not talking like $25,000. No, I would much rather invest that money into our future forever home versus putting that money into this house. So for now, we're just gonna make things work around here and make it as functional and beautiful as possible. That's the goal. So I am gonna be doing a slat wall along the carport, like the back of the carport and the side. So let me show you what I'm talking about, kind of give you an idea. So this is what I mean. I don't know if it's gonna show up, but it's like you can still see through it and airflow still comes through, which is important because it's super hot here and I don't want to make it to where I can't breathe in there when I'm working. But this will be really nice. It'll give some privacy, it'll look nice, and it'll also, I already said the two things that it's gonna do. It's gonna look nice and it's gonna give me some privacy. So yeah, that's the game plan. I'm just excited to kind of like work in the carport without feeling like all eyes are on me. And I totally understand, like sometimes when I see people working in their garage or something, I'm like, ooh, what are you doing? So I get the whole nosiness thing, but when you're the one working on the project, sometimes you just want to like focus on what you're doing, and it's hard to do that when you live close to people around you. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna work on. But I did end up ordering the wrong wood on accident. I went on Lowe's.com and I ordered everything trying to make my life easy, and I screwed up the whole order, to be honest. I got the wrong brackets and they're in my husband's truck on top of all of it, so I can't even return those today. But I got the wrong size wood. I was supposed to get 1 by 3 by 8s, and I accidentally deleted it out of my cart, so I went to go add it back and I added the wrong one. I added 1 by 2 by 3 or by 8s. I need 1 by 3s. I got 1 by 2s. So they're just too skinny. It'll be way too much work to add that many little slats. So I'm gonna go back and exchange them for the wider ones. So it'll be wide slats instead of little tiny skinny ones. And then I will be staining it all the same wood color that is on my back, in my backyard, the fence, the little canopy we have, and the posts that are up front. So everything's gonna be all stained the same color. It should look real pretty. But like I said, it'll give me that privacy that I've been lacking, and obviously you can still see through it, but it's not the same as like when you're trying to look through slats like that. It actually can like be hard to see like what someone's actually doing and all the stuff that they have. So I think it'll be nice. So that's the plan. So I'm gonna run and do that. Okay, so here's what I decided to do. So instead of doing this whole side, I'm gonna start with this back side first and do the slats there and stain it and see how it looks before I decide to like tackle this whole wall, because this is like obviously gonna be a lot. I'll start there with the slat wall and see how it looks, and we'll go from there. In order to install the slat wall, I had to put a board going across the entire bottom and the top, so that way I had somewhere I could nail the wood slats into. So I started off with a 1x6 by 16 and I cut it down to 13 foot. And this is when I was trying to decide on exactly how high off the ground I was going to go. And this board is on the heavier side because it is pretty long and it's pressure treated, so it does have some weight to it. So what I decided to do was just use a 2x4 as a guide. So I laid a 2x4 down, put the 1x6 on top of that, and that is the gap that's going to go across the entire 1x6. And then I just, of course, used my level when I got to the other side to make sure that the board wasn't crooked. Now, of course, I wanted to stain and seal these boards just to make sure that it holds up really well. It does rain a lot here. Also, the sun is brutal, so it's definitely a must to stain and seal any wood that's going to be exposed to the elements. So I purchased a roller, a tray, and some stain and sealer. The brand I'm using is Valspar. It's a one-coat exterior stain and sealer, and I use the semi-transparent in the color October Brown. I wanted to go ahead and share with you that this video will, I'll be sharing the ups and downs of this project. This was definitely one of those projects that gave me a run for my money. I was struggling a lot. I think it was just because it was something I've never done before. I had a vision in mind, and no matter how hard I tried, I could not get that vision to come to life. And that happens. I mean, I feel like sometimes I can do something and it can look so good, and then sometimes I can hit moments where I'm like in an ugly duckling stage and I just can't see past that. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is gonna look awful. And I will say, it's always good to have a good friend, nearby to talk to and share your thoughts with so they can bounce ideas back. And a huge shout out to my sister-in-law for being so encouraging throughout this whole process. I was kind of sending her updates because she was like excited to see it come together, and she helped me a ton just with encouragement and giving her honest opinion, which was really, really helpful. So shout out to her for helping me out because, boy, this was a struggle. But this color I used originally was way too dark. This is the same color I've used on my back patio cover, my privacy fence, and I love it for those spaces. But I think because the carport is so closed in, or not closed in, it's the shadows make it look almost black, and it was just too dark, and it just wasn't the look I was going for. I think when I would look at inspiration photos, I would see this light cedar wood color, and that's what I wanted, but I could not pull that off because my house is yellow currently, and no matter how many samples I got, it just was not looking right. And in the end, when I move on to the other side of the carport, I ended up making my own stain color, and I'll share with you how I did that later. But yeah, this was just one of those things where, I hit multiple hiccups, and I want you to know that if you're hitting hiccups in a project, you're not alone. They don't always go smooth, and sometimes they don't always turn out like we think they're going to, or it might not be the most extravagant before and after that we envisioned in our mind, and that's okay. It's part of the process. It's part of learning and getting better with time. But I know in the moment, it doesn't feel that way. Now looking back, I wish I would have just powered through it, but I kept having moments of, I kept stopping and then standing back and then just being critical. And it's important to just finish through, before you make the final judgment call, especially on a project like this where it just looks worse before it looks better. I also had a slight design change pretty early into the project. I decided to go back to Lowe's after just returning all of this wood and purchasing the wood again. So it was like such a pain in the butt, but I did. I returned the wood this morning and then went back to Lowe's a couple hours later and purchased it again. And I'm happy I did because I do like the design that I decided to come up with. But then moving on, I got back, I sifted through all the wood because the 1x2s come in it's a 6-pack bundle, and some of the wood inside those bundles are a little messed up, so you kind of just got to pick and choose the ones that are straight and return the ones that are messed up later. That's just how I do it. So I went through all the boards, then I started staining them. Now, I will say, this is something that takes patience, and I don't have patience for this type of thing. So you will notice when I move on in a moment, some of the boards are not fully stained, and that's just because I felt like it was taking forever. Plus, I kept having boards flying around because of the wind, and I almost got knocked in the head twice. I finally was just like, you know what? I'm gonna put the boards on the wall and then stain, any areas that I missed later. And it just worked a lot easier for me. So personal preference is to stain while they're up, but you can do whatever you want. All right, so here is oh, can you see this okay? I hope you can see it. Here's the design. I'm gonna go with 2 skinny boards and then the one big one on the outside. So I'm gonna do that all the way down, and then of course it's all gonna be stained the same color. But I think it's gonna look real good. It's like a nice disguise for all of like this open weird space. Plus when the sun comes down, it won't be like killing me. Hopefully some of the wood will kind of help break up the sun. So that is what I'm working on now. To attach the boards, I'm using an 18 gauge nail gun, and I think it was 1.5 inch nails I was using. And I was just popping in 1 nail on each board, because you'll notice that I'm just working on the top first, and then later I went back down to the bottom, used my level and that spacer to nail in the bottom. The reason I decided to just do 1 nail at first was just in case anything was out of place. It was easier for me to pop it off than when I had multiple nails in. So I just started with 1 nail all the way across, and once everything was done, I went back in and popped a bunch of nails in there to make sure that it wasn't going anywhere. I also wanted to point out that there's a ton of work to do in the carport still. We still got to do something with the ceiling in here. As you can see, it's all exposed plywood, and you can see the nails from the shingles. But the previous owner used really heavy drywall. I'm assuming just what was left over from the inside of the house. But the drywall got wet just from the moisture in the air and stuff, because we live in Florida, it rains a lot. And eventually the weight started to pull the drywall down, but not only the drywall, it started to pull like our ceiling and like dip, it made like a dip in our roof. So my dad had to come and help me fix that, and he ripped all that out, and it's been exposed for a while, so we need to do something to the ceiling. I just haven't quite figured out what we want to do yet. But in the meantime, I finished up this side, finished staining that, and then we're going to move on to the next side. Okay, y'all, so for this space here, I'm going to be taking a 2x4, and I have wood like kind of laid out everywhere. So I'm going to be taking a 2x4, attaching it to this bracket here, and it is going to go up to here, and then I'm basically going to be making a square slat with a gap. So see where the blue line is and see where this bracket is? That's going to be the gap in between, and that's where I'm going to have a plant. Then we're going to have another slat wall like this. It's going to stop here. We're going to have a gap, and then another slat wall here. So that is the plan. Dylan helped me install those yesterday just to make it a little easier for me. So I'm going to go ahead and start getting my 2x4s measured out and cut where they need to go and leveled up here, so I can go and build the rest of the frame. So I found that working in sections was what worked best for me. I'm someone who likes to see progress being made, so I would work on one section at a time. So I worked on that back section, left the space, and now I'm working on the middle section. And then once this one's done, I'll move on to the final little section that I did at the front of the carport. The reason I decided to do it this way and leave gaps in between is because it is a carport and I wanted it to still look like a carport, not like a closed-in garage. So I wanted to give that spacing there, still have lots of airflow, and still appear to be just a carport with a design. So, and this is how it turned out so far. Now I just got to work on staining. But before I move on to staining, I did want to climb, oh my gosh, I didn't want to climb up. I wanted to kind of clean up a little bit, just to make sure that I wasn't like tripping over all this wood. And the stack that you see right here is all wood that's going to be returned. So these are the pieces that are really crooked. And Lowe's is really good about returning anything if like the wood's messed up. So I went ahead and loaded these up in the back of my truck, and I will be returning these in just a little bit. While I return them though, I went ahead and got a couple samples for stain color to kind of get the color that I wanted originally, which was like a cedar look. Oh my gosh, you guys. Stain looks nothing like it looks on the samples at all. Like the little blocks that they have at Lowe's. Oh my God, all of them look totally different. One was way too orange, one was way too gray, and almost had like a purple tone to it. And it would change colors with like every angle you turned it. It was so hard picking out the color, and in the end, I ended up just making my own stain. So what I did was I took what was left of the can of the Valspar October Brown, so the gallon-sized can that I bought, and I poured water in it, and I mixed it together and basically watered it down, and then it created the most perfect stain color. So I don't think this is obviously going to protect the wood like it would if you would have left it alone without watering it down, but it did give the perfect color, so I'm okay with it. You just gotta pick and choose. I can always go back in later with like poly if I want to seal it, but I love the stain color. much better with this lighter wood that's kind of like more cool toned versus the super dark or the orangey tones. So I'm happy with the color I ended up getting. Like I said, it's just watered down October brown valspar stain and sealer mix. I know that's a mouthful, so I'll leave it down below in the description. But yeah, so I'm gonna work on staining all these boards. It honestly didn't take too long. I just took a rag and soaked it in the stain and went to town.
It'll look real nice when them get bigger.
Yeah, I'm gonna get some more too. I'm gonna do like
One center, one
yeah.
center.
Yeah.
Yeah. That look good.
So that was my husband that had just got home, and him and I were discussing the project and just all the ups and downs of it, and he was just like, well, it ended up turning out real good, and I agree. I think it ended up being really nice. It gave the privacy that I wanted, and whenever you see the before and after, you can see just how much privacy it actually gives. While it's still open and airy, it still looks like a carport, but it gave a lot more privacy than even like I realized when I went back and looked at the before and after. So I'm super happy with it. I can't wait to get the concrete cleaned up and get all my tools and stuff organized better. I want to create myself like a little workshop space that is a lot more functional, while still being aesthetically pleasing as well. So that's going to be an upcoming project. I actually am going to pick up something today, and I can't wait because I found a great deal on it, and I think it's going to be the perfect solution for hidden storage for out here that I desperately need, because right now I have all of those like plastic black shelving units and you can see everything. It just looks super unorganized, so I can't wait to have like hidden storage. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited about that. So stay tuned for future projects outside. I have a few coming for inside as well. I just rearranged the house again. I know. But I need to do a lot outside as well. So I'm just going to kind of work on things when I have time. I feel like I have a lot more time recently now just because the kids are back in school. And I just feel like recently I've been working on a lot more projects again, which has been fun. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of those future uploads. And here's just a few video clips of the before and afters. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think so far. Keep in mind there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. I'm just kind of fixing it slowly but surely. But I appreciate you so much. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye, y'all.